Artist Cbabi Bayoc talks fatherhood and his project 365 Days with Dad, next on City Corner. I'm Sarah Thompson, and welcome to City Corner. Today I have the pleasure of being joined by artist Cbabi Bayoc. He's a very well-recognized artist here in St. Louis and even beyond St. Louis for his work. And we're going to talk specifically about his project 365 Days with Dad, which, as you can imagine, has to do with paintings about fatherhood for 365 days of the year. So thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So I have to ask you, with this project, 365 Days with Dad, tell me the whole idea behind it, and did you actually paint a painting every day for straight days in a year, 365 days?
Yeah, the idea was to do a painting a day in the year 2012 and just paint each day and post a day and see if I could sell it. And the theme later became fatherhood. I didn't know in the beginning what I was going to do, but conversating with my wife, we decided on fatherhood, and I named the project 365 Days with Dad.
So did it really, was it 1 year, or did it take longer
I painted 255 the first year, and then it took me until March 2014 to finish.
To do that. So, you know, the last time we were talking, you were saying this idea of, because of this project essentially becoming sort of synonymous with this idea of fatherhood.
Right.
And where is this coming from? What's the story behind that?
I always wanted to do a project on fatherhood. I knew the importance of the imagery, and just as I started painting it, I realized the importance of it. You know, at first it was just paintings for me, but then as people responded and just sent in comments, and just the way they reacted to all the artwork, I realized I was in something much bigger than myself. So,
Well, we've pulled some images. Some of those 255 the first year, and the remaining.
Right.
So let's go ahead and take a look at some of those. I think what's interesting to me about them is there are so many different elements of fatherhood, just moments of fatherhood. I mean, everything from playing catch with your son to, we can kind of walk through them. Do you have any specific sort of details, like as we look at some of these behind the specific works?
Well, a lot of them were based on just different photos people sent or different concepts. That one there I chose as the final piece.
Okay.
That's why I put the logo behind it. And this was a photo somebody sent me specifically. He wanted a picture of him and his 3 boys. So it really just depended. And some people just wanted paintings. I didn't make it to where the person purchasing the painting had to get one of their specific family members. So this one was from a photo. You can kind of tell the difference between those that came from photos and those that were just conceptual pieces based on the style.
How so?
Not necessarily realistic, but a little bit more realistic. To me, this is more stylized, so this is something I compiled just from photos I found online and made up my own characters. But when it had a specific scene in the background, or like a piece like this, then it was actually something somebody sent me. So.
This was a photo so that someone...
Yeah, it's a fellow artist that sent that piece. So I had it was really cool. The other artists around the country were digging the project and sent me photos so they can be included. So this here was not. This was actually a mural commission for Gateway 180 downtown homeless shelter for their children's zone. A family donated money for a room to have a piece that would just inspire the kids. And this painting here, I actually brought with me. This is a young man here in St. Louis.
I've seen him before, Dave.
His name is Jason Harris.
Okay, yeah.
He used to have a hip hop TV show back in the day.
Yeah. No, I recognized him, for sure.
Yep. So that's him and his son wearing Superman outfits. So yeah, I really enjoyed that piece. This one here I did for Trayvon Martin. 17 artists in New York. Well, 17 artists from around the country did a show in New York, inspired by his not reaching the age 18, and that's why mine says by age 18 I hope to be, and then on a sheet of paper on the boy's desk he wrote alive, and kind of looking up. So that was my piece for that exhibit, which traveled kind of around different bureaus in New York.
Okay.
Yep. And this actually is another father from St. Louis. I did quite a few paintings for people here in St. Louis, but a majority of them are just spread out around the country. And I had a few in Europe. Just
where people heard about the project and contacted you.
Yeah, France specifically. There were 2 or 3 paintings there. So.
And they would send you a photo.
Those were all conceptual. One young gentleman was actually European. He wasn't even African American, but he just fell in love with the project. He had bought work previous to this project, and he had sent me a picture of him and his nephew playing guitar and said, make us black. And there you go.
Really?
Yeah. We had quite a few actually those here in the U.S. too.
Really?
White families that really wanted to be part of the project and sent me photos and said, make us look African American, because I was only painting African Americans. So.
Well, I've seen some of your other paintings. I mean, the majority, I'd say 99%, obviously reflects sort of African American culture, but not all.
All 365 are all black fathers.
But all your work that you've done, I mean, when I see other works that you've done of like families and stuff, not necessarily.
After that, now I paint whatever, but I wanted 365 specific examples for.
Got it.
Mainly the kids that don't have dad at home to see that, this actually exists in people's lives and it can exist in their life when they become adults. So that was the whole purpose behind it. So.
Well, let's talk about that a little, because I know when we've talked before, outside of obviously the set, that I've lost my father at an early age and you did as well. And so is that something that obviously was the impetus for this project, or something that you've carried with you for a long time and this just kind of happened to be connected to it?
I think it helped fuel the project as it went on. I think it gave it a little bit extra purpose, but I didn't think about it so much. I think about it in little times when things come up, Like, I don't know, I've told you when we were talking the other day, when somebody mentioned to me that, men aren't supposed to throw away their tools or sell them off or pawn them off. And I told him that, I think that's one of those things you take for granted, that if you have dad or uncle around and they're talking shop with their boys and you overhear conversation, you would hear that. But if you're raised up amongst just your mom and daughter and hanging out with friends, you would never get that kind of cultural education. So when things like that come up, then I say, there's a sign of absence when, having a father figure around little things like that most people think normal. Other people, they never heard it. So.
And you and your wife have 3 children of your own. And so when you're doing when you're doing 365 days with dad, are you thinking of scenes that happen every day in your household as well?
No, not necessarily. A lot of times I was thinking about, man, this dad must be really cool. I'm really messing up. So, so it really made me want to be.
I do not do this as a father.
It was very, to me, outside looking in, very idealistic. People sending these great letters about how awesome the husband is and family, and I was completely self-conscious throughout the whole project. Feeling unworthy. So.
I do want to pull up. We have a photo that a photo of a piece of artwork that you just did, connected to Mike Brown.
Okay.
Who was killed, and you painted this on Canfield Drive, is that correct?
Yeah, I was on the light. I went out there at 11 o'clock at night, and it was really quiet. It was a week after all the drama had happened.
So the week after the shooting?
No, not after shooting, after all the tear gas
so
and all the protests. And this
quite
was like,
recent.
this was after people could no longer walk up and down the street. And I mean, it was really, really quiet. It was really strange, but I decided to just go out there and paint it on the spot. I didn't finish it yet, but I started it out there, and it's close to being done.
So you prop up your easel and you put out the canvas so people come by and...
Actually, people stopped, got out and hung out with me for a couple hours. People were driving up down the street blowing horns, and met some people that pulled up. It was strange, at midnight, and they were like, I'm from New York, and I'm from California. We came in town just to be part of the protest, and we actually followed your project online.
Really?
So they're like, you're that Cbabi Bayoc. And I was like, yeah, sure. So.
Sometimes when you think about history and how we understand history, we look back at what was in the media. People also look at art, and sometimes in this case, it's art reflecting reality, and not just in big cases like this, but even your everyday work on this project. What is it that do you want this to serve as a representative to the African American community, but also historically as an example that, yes, black families, this is fatherhood? I mean, are you thinking big picture, or are you just thinking, hey, this is my project because I think it's interesting, and anyone who wants to contact me to do this, contact me?
No, I'm definitely taking the big picture, because you're right. Down history, a lot of it will be verbal and oral, and depending on where you are and where you grew up, in context, a lot of people might say that, a lot of black men weren't around, in prison, this, that, and the other. And hopefully they get some sign of the imagery showing that, there was that situation, but there were also a lot of men who were present and trying to do the right thing by their kids. So, I definitely think in the big picture, but I also want to be synonymous with, the idea and the image of fatherhood, in general, black fatherhood specifically.
So is this project, do you consider this project complete, or do you feel phase one was done and now we're on phase two?
Yeah, phase one for sure.
Phase one has been completed. So what does phase two look like?
Phase two looks like a lot of things in my mind. So I'm going to do a book on the project. But lately I love painting live, and I love the whole idea of food trucks. So I've really had this idea of having a truck, coated with, images of course, artwork based on fatherhood. And I really want to travel the country and just go to schools and pull out the easel in the hallway and do a dad painting and leave them there with the school and pack up and travel on to the next and really make this a mobile project. So.
And take it out the country. Yeah. Well, people are paying attention to you, and you've been recognized nationally, and we're actually going to talk more about that because next month Cbabi will be out east receiving an award nationally for his work and his artwork specifically reflecting fatherhood. So please stay with us here on City Corner as we discuss more with artist Cbabi Bayoc. I'm Sarah Thompson, and welcome back to City Corner. Today I'm joined by Cbabi Bayoc. He is a well-recognized artist here in the St. Louis area who's been around, I hate to say for some time, but a big fan of his work, and a lot of people always enjoy your work. And I wanted to pick back up where we left off, which is we've been talking about 365 Days with Dad, and you've been recognized nationally now about this artwork and this artwork having to do with fatherhood. So tell me where you're going to be next week and about this recognition from Fathers Incorporated.
I wish it was next week.
I mean, not next week, next month. I meant to say.
November 18th. Yeah. Be in New York. I'm getting an award from Fathers Incorporated. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Along with some up there, there's Judge Mathis is up there, Tracy Martin, Trayvon Martin's father. I mean, there's some big Cbabi Bayocs right up there in the left-hand corner.
I'm actually familiar with Philip Jackson, too, because a young man, film student's doing a documentary on my project, and he had a grant project highlighting different projects, and one was actually Phil Jackson's organization up in Chicago, so it's going to be cool to meet him in person. So. Yeah.
So what is it that is it specifically your work, the whole connection is fatherhood, people who've promoted it? Is that?
Yeah, those who are just doing something to, work towards socially promoting the importance of responsible fatherhood, especially in the Black communities.
Okay. So we've been talking about the project, but you also have a book currently that's out, that's for sale. And I know you want to talk about a bigger project. We can talk about that you're working on. So When I Become Dad, what's that?
It's a book I did one night, just 1 o'clock in the morning, just hit me. I just, folks are always wondering when the book's coming out, So I just took some of the images from the actual project and came up with words for each phrase and just kind of made up this little storyline of, just for, once again, all about kids who either have or don't have dad in home, and, using these images as inspiration for the kind of father they'll be when they become older. So that was kind of the thinking behind the project. So. It's on Blurb, so people have been going on there and just purchasing it. But I like it, but it was kind of thin for me, and I want to, just add a little bit more depth to it and a little, elongate a little bit, and then resell it, actually as a physical copy.
Okay, so. As a bigger book. I mean, is the hope too that this is something that if you are a father that, you can reflect on by your experiences, but also for people who don't have their father around, that these are examples that they can either buy a painting or look at this book too. Of course, people know what fatherhood is, but to really see it in a different way.
Yeah, excellent. Absolutely. So, there have been grandmothers and, people who are just mentors buying the book and reading it to the kids in their lives. And it's been, for what it's worth, supported by, people who've followed the project. And just want something tangible in their hands. So, you know, in the long term, I'm definitely working on a book based on the project, which is going to be, to me, almost feels like starting the whole project over again. So,
I remember growing up, you know, my mother would do stuff like that, like buy my brother, because my father had passed away, buy my brother books about, you know, it'd be like Father and Dad, or she'd subscribe to Ebony Men. And, you know, now as a parent, I think about it, there's not a lot out there that reflects fatherhood, and specifically Black fatherhood. Would you agree with that?
I agree, yeah. And yeah, in the children's book world, yeah, there aren't many examples. So I think we just kind of take it for granted, you know, though we talk about it all the time, but, you know, I'm surprised more people aren't putting out material, you know, to support it. But, you know, I think it's coming.
When you talk about being as an artist and sort of synonymous with fatherhood and wanting people, just not only in St. Louis, but really nationally, internationally, to think of you when those topics come up, what is it that you want to say? What contribution is it that you want to make?
You know, just when people are, whatever project they're working on or something, you know, as an artist, a lot of imagery people use, in my point of view, are corny, you know, and just regular old, you know, clip art that lack emotion. And I like to be there to provide something that people actually respond to. I think it would go a long way. You know, I haven't decided. People always ask me, what do you do? And I figured, you know, I decided, you know, I'm a Black fatherhood propagandist, if you will. You know, that's what I do. I promote the image of Black fatherhood, you know, but the image is all it is. It's an image, you know, but the next piece, you know, people have to actually say what fatherhood, you know, really feels like, what you're supposed to do, you know, how you raise your kids, how you don't beat them, blah, blah, blah. You know, I want to work with them. You know, I do my part, but I want to add my part to those who are in their own field doing what they need to do to promote the idea of fatherhood. And I like to join, you know, forces with those folks. So hopefully they're traveling around the country, get more attention, and, you know, more people will think of me, and I can, you know, figure out more resources and people to work with. So
in that kind of light, we're looking at, we just saw, there's two images currently. The one right before this is a sort of sketch of this painting, and then there's the actual painting. Let's talk about your process of making art. I mean, you've done so many of these paintings. You've done so many paintings in general. How long does it take to do one piece, even when we look at these on set?
I'm a little, well, it depends. It all depends. You know, I actually did one to Trayvon Martin when I first met, well, not when I first met, the first session I had with the guy doing a documentary on me. And then he was shocked, and so was I. You know, that one probably took 4 hours. If I'm not distracted or I'm in the zone, I can just go from black canvas to sketching to painting, and next thing you know, I'm done. You know, sometimes it shocks me. But then I had some guys who had like 6 kids, you know, and those paintings took 2 days, you know, so sprinkling those in there kind of jacked up my rhythm, you know, and that ended the whole day, you know, one piece at a time. But a lot of times in the morning I would post, or at night I would post, you know, a painting, and then the next day I would get up in the morning and just start a new one and actually finish it that night. So 6 to 8 hours is about average.
For painting. And how do you describe your style? Because I will say, I've been to certain art fairs, and I'll be walking around and I'll spot something and I go, oh, that kind of reminds me of Cbabi's artwork, which is a good thing, I guess. But I mean, do you feel like you've, at this point in your career, that you've developed a sort of signature style?
People say they recognize it. So I know what it feels like to paint on the canvas. I don't necessarily know what people actually see. You know, my work changed a lot once I saw the Chipunga exhibit at Botanical Gardens, the sculpture, and they had a lot of flat planes and simplified shapes, and I kind of adopted that to a extent, you know, the way I do faces with a lot of flat shapes and planes, and the way I do fingers. So, I mean, I don't know what people are seeing. I do notice that I do some things repetitively, but, you know, I don't know what.
So you're saying it's not necessarily your intent?
I just paint.
You just paint?
Yeah.
Okay.
Whatever happens, man. I can go super realistic if I need to. You know, I know how to do that too. So
I see. Because it's also, I think, for artists to talk about their work in that removed way, you know, it can be difficult. Let's talk a bit about you and your background. How long have you been an artist?
Since 95. Well, that's when I graduated. So professionally, I guess since then, you know, 18 years or so.
And were you always sort of sketching and painting growing up as a child? Or?
Yeah, I could always sketch, but I didn't take it seriously until I was going to graduate from high school. And, you know, reality kicked in. I needed to do something. And it was that or math. You know, I really wasn't looking for a challenge, you know, intellectually. So.
And how do you find being an artist here in St. Louis, being a professional artist at that?
It's tough. You know, it's real tough. Most of I say the majority of what I've done for a living has been outside of the city. I've done a lot of stuff in Anheuser-Busch, and other people through, corporate ads, so that's been nice. But on a regular day basis, I say mostly outside of the city is where I sell the most. So it's a tough city.
When do you feel that your career sort of picked up outside of St. Louis? Because I feel here in St. Louis, most people are familiar with your work, but you also have a following really internationally and across the country. So when do you feel that tipping point happened?
I think metaphorically speaking and literally speaking, had some hit records. So I used to be a caricature artist. So I met with Chris Lighty via phone years ago when I was illustrating for Rap Pages, and he asked me to do a Violator album cover. That's a long time ago. I actually had the gold album in the bathroom in our bake shop. It's just hilarious, but people go use the bathroom and come out, freaking out that was you. And then I did a painting that Prince bought and used on one of his album covers. And it's funny, is last week he just did a concert. Can't remember what the website is, but people started emailing me and tweet me that, there's a woman sitting in front of your painting at the studio. And so that got me a lot of international attention because Prince has some serious fans around the world. Mm-hmm. People call all the time wanting posters of the painting that he purchased. I don't have them, but it's kind of weird to every now and then see an email from Japan or Italy, can I get a copy of? And I say, I don't have it, but it's cool you're emailing me, so. Yeah.
But I think even like when you think about sort of merchandising Black culture, if you will, I mean, there's not a lot of that, from a high art standpoint too, when you think about it. I mean, so if someone's thinking like what represents, Black culture, African American culture in a very proud and positive way, we think of Alvin Ailey dance or something, or we think of certain images or historic photos. But for artwork, it's not to say that there are plenty of Black artists, but to have a sort of signature look and feel. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Most people, whether my work looks like it or not, they always bring up Good Times. I don't think my work looks anything like Ernie Barnes, but that's what people have. They have that, or Cynthia St. James, who did the Kwanzaa poster. Kwanzaa stamp, or Little Bill Cosby. We have these things that kind of, been tied to TV, but just as far as going in galleries, most of us, that's just not what we do. So this project was cool because it dealt with mostly everyday people who, for the most part, never purchased a painting or a piece of art or anything. So to actually get one in the dad at home was, a big deal in, cultural sense. But yeah, it's not part of our, art's pulled out of so many schools now that, when kids see me in my shop painting live, you should just see them stop and stare like you're walking on the moon or something that is, whoa, what is going on? Even though they see paintings on the wall, think about how the paintings are made. So to actually see me painting, it's really cool. So
yeah, to see that. No, that's a good point. To see that in the process. So what's kind of next? What's on the radar? What's next? I know you want to travel the country. Got a new book. You have a calendar that's out. Anything else?
Yeah, the calendar's doing real well. But once I do this book here, I want to get it to travel and go around. And sometime next year, a documentary is supposed to come out on the project. So this project's gonna get a whole new life. I'm just going back to the studio and just letting see what next day brings.
And do you think like in 10 years from now you might switch over to motherhood? Your wife's going to be watching this.
She said never again. Don't ever claim to do another project like this ever. So I told people if I ever do a year in motherhood, it will be a Kickstarter project, and in those 6 weeks, if you didn't purchase one of them, then I'm sorry, but I'm only going to paint as many as people bid and actually request in that small period of time. But yeah, I'm sure I'll definitely. I like painting family, and I like people supporting their loved ones in that way. So we'll see. Yeah.
And we should clarify: are you as an artist available for commissioned work? If someone is watching this, seeing your artwork, saying this would make a great Christmas gift or a great Father's Day gift, or someone in my family to really invest in a wonderful piece of artwork, you're available to do that?
Yeah, the painting here I just finished. It's still. She purchased this after I was done, so there are still people, I paint commission pieces every day, so folks are always contacting me asking me to do something, so. Okay. Yeah, paint animals too.
You're like, I'm still an artist working
paint dogs and cats, yeah, whatever, yeah.
Well, the information, we've got it there for you on your screen. If you want to contact Cbabi to commission him to do some artwork, you can contact him via his website or his Facebook or Twitter page, which is pretty active. You stay pretty active on there. Obviously, if you want to learn more about 365 days with Dad, go ahead as well to the website and you can learn more. And as we talked about, there's a book, there's a calendar, and then there will be an upcoming coffee table book, which we look forward to. And maybe once that's complete and once you do your travels, we'll have you back in here then.
Sounds good.
All right, well, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
All right, and thank you at home for watching us here on City Corner. For more information, you can always head to our website, stltv.net. But thank you again for joining us.